Good day. Welcome to First Take on YouTube. I'm Molly Karam. That is Stephen A. Smith. And we have a very special guest in the house today, co-founder of Enjoy Basketball, co-host of Numbers on the Board podcast, the one and only Kenny Beecham. So great to have you from the Chi and NYC in the flesh.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, let's have some fun, guys. Let's talk some NBA. So after sweeping the Timberwolves in the regular season, the Suns find themselves down 1-0 in the first round of the playoffs. Phoenix was humbled game one as it struggled to unlock its offense. Kevin Durant scored 31 points on 11 for 17 shooting, but Devin Booker's 18 and Bradley Beal's 15 points not effective enough to get the win. Meanwhile, those Mavs find themselves in the same boat, hoping to even the series tonight versus the Clippers. LA outlasted Dallas 109-97 in game one, led by James Harden's 28 points, while Luka's 33-point effort was not enough to seal the win. Kenny, which would be the bigger disappointment if bounced first round?
Easily, the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
This team has Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and you're trying to tell me if they lose, they'd have one playoff series win, and it was when Kawhi Leonard went out with his injury? That's it? So one of the most expensive teams in basketball, we can get one series win. And the big thing about it is that with the Dallas Mavericks, if they lose in the first round, there's ways to tinker this roster to get better. But because we're over the second apron in Phoenix and because we're so much in the luxury tax, we already paid Grayson Allen, there's no real way to make this team better. Nobody's going to be lining up for Bradley Beal's guaranteed $100+ million over the next couple of years. So it's either you keep Kevin and Devin and run it back, or you have to make the decision between those two.
Well, listen, you can look at it that way. That's one of the ways to look at it. Our way I look at it in terms of it being a bigger disappointment, I'll say the Suns, but for a more intimate reason. Kevin Durant, you ain't been out the second round since you departed from Golden State. This is Kevin Durant we talking about here. This is one of the greatest players to ever play this game. And we're talking about a guy that's a two-time champion and a two-time NBA Finals MVP, and we almost never talk about him as a champion.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you departed from Oklahoma City, you were up 3-1 on Golden State. Golden State comes back and beats you, and then you join them less than a month later. And so you got a lot of people that held on to that, and they say, okay, yes, you clearly the best player on the Golden State Warriors, but in the same breath, you needed them in order to win because you couldn't do it without them. Just like they didn't do it without, they weren't going to do it without you, but they had already had rings without you, at least one ring without you. And so you got to look at it from that standpoint. You also got to look at Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is Kobe-esque when he's on. But when he's off, he's off. And there have been playoff games where you're looking for Devin Booker and he's nowhere to be found. And when that happens, the Phoenix Suns customarily suffer. And so Bradley Beal, yeah, to a lesser degree, nobody's really thinking about him, but you do look at him and say, what's up with you? Because you were in purgatory in the nation's capital. You aren't playing meaningful basketball games. Now here you are in your first playoff game in years. You got a pedestrian 15 points. What's going on with that? You ain't a 15-point-per-game scorer. You somebody that was one of the league leaders last year, averaging over 30. What's going on with you? All right, now that you are healthy enough and you performing in the playoffs. So from a personal perspective, when you look at those bodies, you're saying, what's up? And to me, first and foremost, is Kevin Durant, because we should, and once upon a time we did talk about Kevin Durant in the same light, in the same breath as a LeBron James. Whether it was you agreed or disagreed, it was still a debate. Yeah. Now he's not even a part of the discussion because of the absence of success. His teams have failed to enjoy. Most likely not because if Kyrie gets hurt, Brooklyn, they go to the finals. If Kyrie doesn't get hurt, if he doesn't get hurt against Milwaukee. Last year, though, people believed Clippers would have took you if it wasn't for Kawhi.
Yep. No Paul George in that series either.
That's right. And in the end, you haven't been out of the second round since 2018, 2019. Nah.
The problem is that you need both Kevin and Devin to drop 40 each.
Right.
If you look back at that series, Devin Booker averaged 38. They need that every single night. And you saw what Jaden McDaniels did to him in game number one. Right. He couldn't get that 38.
Right.
So it would be a big disappointment. And I don't know what they would do to kind of get out of that.
You don't have any. How are you going to combat it? Because I'm thinking about it. Minnesota is known for chasing you off the three-point line, forcing you into the interior, and Rudy Gobert is there waiting for you, and to a lesser degree, Karl Anthony Towns. You're the Phoenix Suns. Where's your interior offense? You don't really have one. It's really Kevin Durant posting dudes up from the foul line, the free throw line, or the baseline, and he's 6'11", but you don't have a real big physical dude. Nurkic ain't that dude. And so now I'm looking at a Grayson Allen. Led the league in three-point shooting, 46%. You know what he can do from three-point range. Props to him, but he was a no-show in game one. Yep. What are you going to do? I don't know what Phoenix can do if they end up getting bounced out by Minnesota, because none of the teams in the West are getting worse.
Yeah. Even if they run it back, you think about continuity. Next year, you're probably taking the Denver Nuggets over them. Next year, you're probably taking the Clippers over them if Paul George resigns. There's a lot of teams you would like more than them next season. So it's gonna be tough. They still have a lot of time to win this series, but game one.
You say a lot of time. I say they better win. I don't think they should go down 2-0. Listen, they came back from 0-2 to Denver last year.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you lost that in 6. You have to expend too much energy, really, really going all out on your home court back in Phoenix to win games 3 and 4 if you down 0-2. And with the way Minnesota plays defense and the way Anthony Edwards has arrived, really coming after them, it really is going to be problematic for them to overcome an 0-2 deficit.
What about the fact that the Clippers aren't fully healthy? What would this mean for the Mavericks? Kawhi's questionable.
Not a lot. I mean, we've seen Luka Doncic lead a team to the conference finals. I have no questions about what Luka Doncic can do. We do have some playoff questions with Kyrie Irving. It's been about a decade. Game number 1, second half, he looked amazing, so you feel good about that. But this team was basically put together on the fly in February with the acquisition of P.J. Washington, with the acquisition of Daniel Gafford, and having the rookie Derek Lively. They still have a lot of time, for me at least, before I have to hit the panic button, because now that we've seen a season and a half of Kyrie and Luka, we're like, that's one of the best duos in basketball.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we have to remember is that when you are explosive offensively the way that they are, once you get going, it's really hard. It's like a locomotive. It's hard to stop. It's hard to stop. So we saw them struggle in the first half. Obviously, Kyrie had his 20 points in the third quarter, came on strong in the second half. Saw him getting on a couple of his teammates, the younger dudes that ain't quite ready for the moment or whatever. Come on, step it up the whole bit. I have no doubt about him and Luka. If they get to a point where they just start doing extraordinary things like we're accustomed to seeing them do, what will the Clippers do to answer that call? Because we have seen the Clippers have a cushion and then ultimately fold in the past. Let's see what happens this go round.
Yep.
All right. Who would you say, Kenny, is the biggest X factor in this postseason?
It's got to be Kristaps Porzingis. Out East, I feel pretty confident saying that the Boston Celtics are going to win the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry to the Knicks fans. I'm sorry to the Bucks fans, but the Celtics are so good, and I'm going to assume that the way we see the Denver Nuggets, they're going to come out of the West. So it's like, can Porzingis stay healthy and be a deterrent for Nikola Jokic? And there ain't many people in the world that can deter Nikola Jokic. But in the few times they have played against each other, I've liked the way with Porzingis' ability to stretch the floor, to pull Nikola Jokic out of the paint a little bit more and cause him to use those legs, use those feet defensively. Now, if he's not there, which is always a question for Porzingis, but he's been healthy this year, that's more of a struggle. I might even give it to Al Horford as well, because he's going to have to guard Nikola Jokic a bunch on that block, and he's dominating everybody. But if the Celtics want to do what we know they can do, and they've been the most dominant team in the regular season, it's going to be a lot of Porzingis.
Well, be careful when you say dominant, because you're just looking at their record, and you're looking at the fact that they beat up on practically everyone. I say practically everyone because there's one team they didn't do it to, and that's the reigning defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets. They lost both meetings to them.
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to that, number one. Number two, I'm going to go out on the limb, and I'm going to say New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson. It's the X factor. Let me tell you why. I expect Boston to come out of the East. I expect Denver to come out of the West. I expect Anthony Edwards to show what he could do in the whole bit. LeBron, AD, stuff like that. Devin Booker, he's had his moments in helping Phoenix get to a finals appearance 3 years ago or so. When I look at Jalen Brunson, if Jalen Brunson's going to give me what I got during the regular season, they beat Philly. And you know who else they beat? They beat Milwaukee. They beat Indiana. They beat those two teams, and then the Knicks are in the conference finals. And then who knows what the hell could happen. It shouldn't happen. There's no way on earth they should beat Boston. We shouldn't even be thinking about them beating Boston. But grit, toughness, feistiness with absolutely, positively nothing to lose against a team with a penchant for shooting threes, launching them a bit too much at times, yeah, I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson as an X factor, because everybody else is like, you got stars, but Porzingis, I like that selection too.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to watch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on ESPN. And of course, Kenny, you want to plug your stuff?
That's right.
I mean, I guess we can. Tuesdays, 2 o'clock Eastern, I host a podcast saying Numbers on the Board on ESPN2. And also find me on YouTube. You just search Kenny Beecham.
You said Numbers on the Board.
Numbers on the Board.
ESPN2.
ESPN2.
2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
2 p.m.
Weekdays?
Baby. Weekdays. Tuesdays. It's Tuesdays.
Just Tuesdays.
As of right
Once
now.
a week.
But
See, you didn't want the 5 days a week yet.
I would have loved it.
You would have loved it.
One step, baby steps. Baby steps before the full takeover.
Tuesdays, 2 p.m. ESPN2, Numbers on the Board. That is how you promote, my brother.
Yeah.
Kenny, appreciate you, and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right.
He doesn't need it.